this female fencer decided to take a knee rather than compete against a biological male.
The policies that are claiming that transgender women in sports are men are wrong.
First off, I hope your hair doesn't identify as having been combed, because I will tell you, sir, it is not.
It is incorrect to refer to transgender women and girls as men.
What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, so I wanted to talk about this story, and we'll get to it in just a second, but I'll read you the headline really quick. Women's fencer opens up on refusing to face transgender opponent, accepting punishment and backlash. The name of this fencer is Stephanie Turner, and the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because I'm glad to see somebody actually take such a public stand, and I think that even though she's going to face backlash and has faced backlash, I do think that if more people start to take Stephanie Turner's approach, it will definitely help the cause out more than what a lot of people are doing right now, which is competing and then complaining afterwards, because this person, Stephanie Turner, had gone out of her way to avoid these kinds of situations and is somewhat worried about backlash that she could face from her friends in the LGBTQ community, which I would tell you, if your friends are mad at you for taking a stand, they weren't really your friends, and I, as a gay man, am definitely proud of you, Stephanie Turner, and keep doing what you're doing, because I'm tired of the disingenuous arguments, and I'm tired of the fact that as much as this country, and especially the left, likes to tell us that they do believe in women speaking up and that women need to be heard and that we should believe all women and all the things that they've told us since well before even the Me Too movement regarding women and women's rights, and the way that women should be respected just the same way a man should, which is something I truly do believe in, to the point where I do believe that women should be able to say, I do not want to compete against biological males. Not only because there are physical advantages, but just because I don't. Just because I am here to compete against other women. If I want to compete against males, I can join some sort of co-ed team. But anyway, my point is, this woman, Stephanie Turner, to me is a real hero, because she decided to finally put it all on the line and just say, whatever the consequences are, I'm going to take a stand, or in this case, take a knee in order to take a stand. And you will find out that the organization that put this tournament on, USA Fencing is the name of the organization, basically has the stance of, we're willing to listen to you ladies that you do not want to compete against males, but we're going to need you to compete against these males first, and then we can talk about it later. Well, what's the point of saying you don't want to do something if the organization is going to tell you you have to do it in order to be heard about not doing it? And you will also hear me talk a little bit about the fact that this is yet again another person that originally was lackluster, mediocre when they competed against other males, and then miraculously, even though there's no biological advantage to being male and competing against females, turned out to be exceptional when competing against females. So let's get into this story. Women's fencer Stephanie Turner took her mask off and got on a knee in front of her transgender opponent ahead of a bout at the Cherry Blossom Open in Maryland over the weekend. Turner, 31, made the decision not to compete against trans athlete Redmond Sullivan, and Turner also wanted to make sure her refusal was caught on video for the world to see. Turner came to the decision the night before the event when she checked the competition pools and saw that she would be competing against Sullivan, whom she had read about in an article last year. I saw that I was going to be in a pool with Redmond, and from there I said, okay, let's do it. I'm going to take the knee, Turner told Fox News Digital. Turner went through all her warm-ups that day and went on to fence in 4 bouts before her matchup with the trans athlete. When it came, she was nervous and shaky, but was sure about her decision. I can understand those nerves, because I definitely have had those moments where it's like, I'm going to say something about this, and you really do go through it because you know that this is possibly going to affect you for the rest of your life. Yeah, and I don't envy her in this position, because that's one that, like I said, I can just relate to what she's going through here. So she says, I knew what I had to do because USA Fencing had not been listening to women's objections regarding its gender eligibility process, Turner said. I took a knee immediately at that point. Redmond was under the impression that I was going to start fencing. So when I took the knee, I looked at the ref and I said, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I am a woman and this is a man and this is a women's tournament and I will not fence this individual. Redmond didn't hear me and he comes up to me and he thinks that I'm hurt or he doesn't understand what's happening. He asks, are you okay? And I said, I'm sorry, I have much love and respect for you, but I will not fence you. And right after that, Turner's punishment by USA Fencing commenced. Redmond says to me, well, you know, there is a member on the board of directors who supports me, and there is a policy that acknowledges me as a woman, so I am allowed to fence, and you will get blackcarded. And I said, I know, Turner said. See, and that's the thing that's annoying about this situation. Is this person knows by the terminology that they're using, and I'm talking about the trans competitor, they're not actually a woman. I don't know why we're not allowed to say that, and I don't know why there are consequences to that, because at the very least, we should be able to state that simple fact. I'm tired of people pretending that they don't know what a woman is. There's an actual definition for a woman that is an adult human female. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's no other definition in the English language that people have such trouble reciting. So when you have to say that there is a policy that acknowledges you as a woman, that tells me that you know that you are not a woman. If you were just a woman or just a man, there would be no need for a policy to acknowledge you as such. I don't need anybody to acknowledge me as a man or as a male. It's just what I am. So we start off on shaky ground when even you know that you have to be acknowledged as something that you're not in order to be able to compete in this particular tournament. Minutes later, the referees dealt Turner a black card, which represents the most severe penalty leading to expulsion from the tournament or event for serious rule infractions or unsportsmanlike behavior. Turner says she was then escorted to the bout community where she had to explain what she did. She says the members then handed her a copy of the association's transgender policy and made her sign a document acknowledging the black card. Turner said she signed the document under objection. Then Turner was escorted out of the venue, she said. USA Fencing provided a statement to Fox News Digital addressing the incident. Quote, USA Fencing enacted our current transgender and non-binary athlete policy in 2023. The policy was designed to expand access to the sport of fencing and create inclusive safe spaces. The policy is based on the principle that everybody should have the ability to participate in sports and was based upon the research available of the day, the statement read. Okay, I don't know when the research of the day was ever that genetic males and genetic females are the same and should be competing against each other. What day was this in 2023 that was the research of the day? And I really wish somebody could answer me on how these mediocre male competitors end up going into women's sports and all of a sudden become exceptional. Why is this a phenomenon if there is no difference between males and females? And I'm sure they'll tell me some bullshit like, once you can identify as the person you were truly meant to be, you develop almost superhuman strength. So let me read a little bit to you guys about this trans athlete, Redmond Sullivan, and his miraculous transformation from mediocre male to exceptional female. Redmond Sullivan, who had been competing on Wagner College's men's fencing team as recently as October 2023, claimed victory at the Connecticut Division Junior Olympic qualifier in junior women's foil category this past weekend. The win comes after Sullivan placed 29th out of 58 competitors while competing in the men's New England Division USFA Pomme de Terre tournament in June 2023. Since transitioning to women's competitions in November, Sullivan has seen markedly improved results, including a 3-0 record at the Northeast Fencing Conference varsity meet and winning 2 out of 3 sets at the Seahawks Invitational in December. This is not Sullivan's first experience competing in women's athletics. While at Daniel Hand High School in Connecticut, Sullivan competed in girls track and field, winning a state championship in shot put, with the throw nearly 4 feet further than second place finisher. During that same period, Sullivan also competed on the boys fencing team. See, how is that happening? How is it that they're competing on the boys team in 2023 when they're at Wagner College. But then before that in high school, they were competing in girls track. And then now they're back to girls fencing. To me, that's not really making sense. Shouldn't there be some sort of consistency? At least if you're going to act like this is an actual thing, shouldn't you have to, once you decide to compete a particular way, you're just committed to competing that particular way? Are we going to allow this flip-flopping and going back and forth? And, you know, Chase Strangio at a point says that
the policies that are claiming that transgender women in sports are men are wrong. The president is lying when he says that there are men impersonating women and participating in women's sports. There are no examples of men impersonating women that I am aware of. And it is incorrect to refer to transgender women and girls as men and boys. And
well, that's when I think a lot of people think it does turn into impersonation, where otherwise in everyday life, I don't think a lot of people would see it that way if it weren't for situations like this, because you may be trying to pull off the look of the other sex, but at the same time, you still are a genetic male competing against women, which makes it unfair. And then it makes it seem like it is an impersonation rather than just the way you're living or you just living your life. Does that make sense at all? Hit me in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We just passed 75,000, and I know I'm a little bit silly, but for me, that is a big deal. I really appreciate you guys for it. We're 3/4 of the way there, so do your part. Hit the subscribe button. Also, make sure you click the bell to select all notifications so that you know every time I upload. We respect the viewpoints on all sides and encourage our members to continue sharing them with us as the matter evolves. It's important for the fencing community to engage in this dialogue, but we expect this conversation to be conducted respectfully, whether at our tournaments or in online spaces. The way to progress is by respectful discussion based in evidence. Okay, well, there's a lot of evidence to say that males and females are built differently. So I don't know why this should be a discussion. And really, to me, what she did was respectful. She just got down on a knee and was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. She didn't do anything unsportsmanlike. She just chose to forfeit. A USA Fencing spokesperson also told Fox News Digital that Turner was not penalized for her stance against trans inclusion, but simply for refusing to fence. And that's what I'm telling you guys. If she says that she doesn't want to fence against a trans athlete, and then you penalize her because you put her against a trans athlete, and at that point she has no choice but to go ahead and choose not to fence, then how were you giving her any other choice but to do what she did? In the case of Stephanie Turner, her disqualification was not related to any personal statement, but was merely the direct result of her decision to decline to fence an eligible opponent, which the FIE rules clearly prohibit, the spokesperson said. According to the FIE, International Fencing Federation, okay, I don't know how that's FIE when that would be IFF, but according to the FIE, International Fencing Federation, technical rules, specifically Article T113, a fencer is not permitted to refuse to fence another properly entered fencer for any reason. Under these rules, such a refusal results in disqualification and the corresponding sanctions. This policy exists to maintain fair competition standards and preserve the sport's integrity. Well, if the sport had any integrity, they would understand that males should not be competing with females. And I know some people would be like, well, how does this affect fencing? And I would say that in a sport where a lot of it deals with reach and lunging, most males will have an advantage over females. So why is this even a question? Turner said she has not heard anything back from the organization since the incident. It was an incident she had actively tried to avoid at prior events. Turner said she previously refused to enter multiple past fencing events that included other transgender fencers when she knew about it. It's an issue that she made an effort to stay on top of for her own awareness and safety. In previous years, when I had known about transgender fencers being present, I just wouldn't register, but for this one, Redmond must have signed up after me, Turner said. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to God. If this person shows up to my event and is on my script, then I would take a knee, and that would be God's will. And that's where, again, I think this is really shitty when it comes to the way that women are treated. Because why in other years should this actual female have to sit out a competition that is supposed to be for women? And I know that fencing probably isn't the most popular, so they're probably willing to take anybody. But honestly, why should this woman have had to sit out other years and other competitions and who knows how many, because she might be forced to compete against a person that does have a biological advantage and that she doesn't want to have to compete against. So she as a woman has to sit it out because a genetic male wants to compete in a space that was not designed for them in the first place. And then the trans community wonders why there are certain laws being enacted and rules being put in place that specifically pertain to trans people and want to act like that's discrimination. Make it make sense. It was not a decision she came to lightly, however. Turner paid close attention to the Protect Women's Sports movement that has emerged in recent years and the backlash and harassment faced by the women who took part in it. She recalled the story of Riley Gaines being held hostage and assaulted at San Francisco State University in April 2023. The idea of the backlash haunted Turner, but wasn't enough to stop her from taking a knee. It will probably, at least for the moment, destroy my life. I don't think that it's going to be easy for me from now on going to fencing tournaments. I don't think it's going to be easy for me at practice, Turner said. It's very hard for me to do this. For Turner, one of the sacrifices she is most concerned about is impeding the friendship she has with people in the LGBT community, who she said don't currently know about her stance on the issue. Well, girl, fuck them. Fuck them, girl. Fuck them and feed them fish. Because really, if they're mad at you for deciding what's best for you in a competition that is supposed to be for women, I'm going to tell you, I don't know any LGB, so gay, lesbian, bi, that are going to hold this against you, because we're against this too. I guess you know your friends better than I do, and maybe they will hold that against you. But for the most part, I think you're going to end up getting support on this, even from people that are from within the community. As a lifelong Democrat, Turner insists she never opposed LGBTQ people, but the issue of trans inclusion of women's sports has driven her away from supporting the party, and she now identifies as a new Republican conservative. And that's what the LGBTQ community and the Democrats do not want to accept, is this is literally driving people away. This is an 80-20 issue. 80% of Americans are against trans women being in women's sports. But for some reason, this is definitely the hill that the Democrats and the LGBTQ community are willing to die on. I voted red down the ticket this year, Turner said. It was like waking up to the lies of the mainstream media. Just to watch so many of my friends have this glassy-eyed look while just defending this policy because their brains cannot manage the possibility that their party or their position has been wrong on this, and perhaps this isn't a civil rights movement and they have been misled. Turner added that she fully supports President Donald Trump cutting funding to states that allow trans athletes to compete in women's and girls' sports. Something needs to be done, and there are activists who have embedded themselves in authoritative positions in sports bodies. And she's not wrong. Something does need to be done. But yeah, so it's like, are we going to continue to let people just go back and forth like that? Like 1 year you're competing against the girls and the next year you're competing against the boys. Does that really make sense? Does that really seem like the way it should be going down? Maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm too old for this conversation. Maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I don't even know what a man and a woman are anymore. Maybe I don't even know what the terms male and female mean. Does anybody smell toast? Am I having a stroke right now? I think I'm having a stroke. I'm pretty sure I just had a stroke. All right. I'll call the ambulance after I'm done recording. But my point is, I'm not understanding all this back and forth from going from boys to girls. And I'm also not understanding why women can't just put their foot down and say, yeah, this isn't what we want, without facing any kind of backlash or negative consequences or people wanting to vilify them. There's nothing wrong with just saying, hey, as far as male and female go, we're built different. And I don't want to get hurt competing with people that have biological advantages. I mean, how many more Peyton McNabbs have to happen?
November 1st, 2022, I was severely injured in a high school volleyball game by a transgender athlete on the opposing team. I suffered from a concussion and neck injury that to this day I'm still recovering from. Other injuries I still suffer from today include impaired vision, partial paralysis on my right side, constant headaches, as well as anxiety and depression. I was unable to play the rest of my last volleyball season, and although I am currently playing softball, I am not able to perform as well as I know I have in the past because of the injury.
For anybody to take this seriously, not even one Peyton McNabb should have happened in my opinion, but how many more have to happen for these different governing bodies of these sporting events to understand? So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, because that's where I'm at on it. If you want to see a video of me talking about the comedian that just got canceled from doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner, Amber Ruffin is her name, click the link on your screen. Other than that, as always, thanks for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.